Well, welcome back into mid-Norfolk, and when we first showed you this area of the old swimming pool, I think it was a complete hole in the ground with the concrete just being broken up and filled in. And then I think the last time I showed you it was a rather muddy pile with a huge pile of topsoil at one end that had been unceremoniously dumped and left for about 3 or 4 weeks while the builders got distracted with other works. Since then we've had the mini digger and the dumper truck back, and the topsoil was levelled out. More topsoil was brought round from the paddocks. We're lucky enough to have a ready supply of topsoil as we build a new car park area for the builders to store all their equipment around the back. But now we've had 20 tonnes of crushed brick put down for the paths. The paths have then been top dressed with washed 10mm pea gravel, and then we've sourced these flint boulders from a local quarry yesterday to put the landscape edging in. So let's go down and show you this area in a little bit more detail. The landscaping for this part of the garden comes directly off the back of the cottage, and we've extended this patio area out massively. The little magnolia in the middle of the patio there, well, it's not really in the middle, it's off to one side, but that was in the middle of the old border that lined the edge of the swimming pool landscaping, which was elevated at around about a foot and a half above where the ground level sits now. The swimming pool obviously had to be completely flat, and this land slopes away by probably about a foot and a half over the course of the 15 metres. So incorporating that into a hard landscaping design was a little tricky, and it caused a few problems when we were thinking how we were going to do that and still have some nice clear cut edges. And the solution we came up with was to form hardcore paths which were quite wide. These are around 8 foot, with the hard landscaping in a soft landscaping format, and by that I mean nothing cemented in, no formal hard edges, but what we've done to edge the gravel paths is use these flint boulders, which are pretty readily available in Norfolk. I spent yesterday doing 2 trips to the local quarry and hand picking out of their spoil heap around 250 of these things. You can see what they're like when they come out. They are covered in yellow sand and clay, and if you just get these delivered from the quarry, they come with a whole load of claggy material that basically you then got to sort yourself out with, and a lot of mixed sizes, whereas if they let you hand pick them, as I did, I could be more selective and get some decent sized boulders, and they're very cheap. This whole run of pebbles or boulders cost me a little over £30 in total. It was just under a tonne, which I was very impressed with, because if you go and buy any of these in a garden centre, you're looking at 3 or 4 quid a boulder. Some of them have got some lovely features on. Just look at this fossilised shell on this, absolutely incredible. But we're forming this with these for a reason, really. It's going to allow us to have a crisp planting edge, but I know Kate's going to overplant these with all sorts of things that are going to fall over the edges and onto the paths. We've already got a run of catmint in this area that we've split and planted on, and that's going to spread out to about 3 foot. It's one of the giant varieties. So these paths are looking very wide at the moment, but they are going to narrow considerably, and that's one of the reasons we've put these in so wide on this area. The planting holes themselves, this is topsoil out of one of our paddocks. We didn't use the very top bit, so it's hopefully not got too much in it, but it's going to be full of seed, we know that. I've got 100 sacks of spent mushroom compost on order at the moment, which we're going to use as a really thick top dressing for this and soil improver. You can see it's not being cultivated, it's not the greatest of topsoil, but it was available on site and allowed us to proceed with this design quite quickly. The other reason we've gone for this design is because this is a swimming pool that's being filled in. We know that it's going to sink and settle over the next few months and years, and if we put the landscaping, the hard landscaping, in with a formal edge in a concrete trench or set, it's going to move, it's going to crack, it's going to look terrible and need a lot of repair. So by using these boulders, that gives us the ability to reposition them very easily and keep it looking hopefully quite good. And we're pretty happy with the design. You can see how it's going to feed off that patio area with the big French window going through into the back of the barn, and that's the new kitchen area. So it's looking quite good, and we've got a really exciting planting opportunity in this area. On the end gable wall here, where the old lean-to greenhouse used to be many decades ago, not in the ownership that we've had the house for, but you can see the basic outline of the old greenhouse that used to be here. I think it was a vinery, but there was a absolute massive bay tree on the end here which was cutting the light down considerably and narrowing the access. That has gone with the help of the mini digger. It has left a rather precariously angled castellated wall sticking out, which we're going to leave for now. I think we may take it down in the near future, because this is phase 4 area where a big orangery we hope to build. The plans have been drawn up, but the planning consent not actually applied for yet. But this will knock through from the old dining room there into an orangery on the end of the house. If I pull back a little further, you see the formal nature of this garden tucked on the back of the house here. I think it's going to show very well. We're going to plant it mainly with pinks and blues and whites palettes, peonies, roses, catmints. Oh, she'll find loads of things to go in there. She's going to have a lovely time planting that up, and I'm going to leave it to Kate to pick all the plants. I'll be digging the holes, she'll be making the decisions. The old orchard off to the side, a much less formal area of the garden with the long borders behind, still looking very fine in the late spring sunshine here. Daffodils still doing their thing. The early varieties all finished now. The tete-a-tetes down the long border all been dead-headed. Primrose still looking really good in the foreground. Again, the effects down these long borders. Plantings at this time of year are blue muscari, the yellow natural wild primrose, and it just pops pink and white in the long border behind it, slightly to the white. So we've got two contrasting plantings. Same plants, we've got hyacinths, muscari in both borders, blues in this, whites and pinks in the one that now forms the back aspect of the new garden. And hyacinths just about coming to the end now. I think these borders are going to do much better. Previously they had a retaining wall on the back of the swimming pool, hard landscaping, but this has been planted for years now with alliums, peonies, a variety of other shrubs and herbaceous that are coming up beautifully now and form the backdrop. We were going to put a big rose arch in here, a real walk-through rose arch, but that design has now been put on hold because the symmetry of the four borders was just right with keeping that walkway through round the old wall, and if we'd narrowed this border it really was going to cut down the planting spaces. So I think if we do replace this, we'll just be replacing it not with a walk-through arch but with a metal structure that runs more or less in the exact path of the wooden supports. They do cause me some problems every 3 or 4 years as they rot out and have to be replaced, and replacing one of them through these established ramblers is quite an unpleasant job, both in terms of the dig and the tie back in. So if I can get a more formal metal structure in here to support these in the long term, I'll be much happier. So a lot to show you over the next coming weeks and months as we plant this garden up. We're washing these boulders at the moment. That's what the bath on the table is. You can see these ones have had a good wash. That one hasn't. I think we got as far as there yesterday, so we've still got this full run just about. Oh, Kate's got as far as that one, I think, so she's just got another 3 or 4. I say Kate, I have been doing them with her, don't worry. So they're heavy things and they are quite sharp. But we'll get those on these lines. It's well worthwhile putting a good strong line down to get a nice sharp edge with the boulders. Although they're not absolutely straight, it does just tie it in and makes it just look that extra bit clean to have a nice edge on it. So exciting planting opportunities, and we'll show you our choices as we make them.